West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710
9 a.m. in the Mile High
KNUS.
City on this Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt. This week, bringing in progressive co-hosts. I know you all think Bill's progressive. Bill's a little bit of a moderate compared to who we have in the show this week in studio. Yesterday, Ted Trimpa, the basic mastermind of the blue takeover of Colorado. Today, Deep Singh Badhesha. He's a political activist, lobbyist, and card-carrying member of the Democrat Socialists of America. Tomorrow, Patricia Calhoun's going to join us. Patricia is the editor and founder of Westward Magazine. Thursday, Vic Vela. Friday, CityCast Denver. Bree is an actual witch. I don't know. Did you know that? I'm going to have a witch on Friday.
It's funny is Patty Calhoun and I go on CityCast all the time, but this Thursday we're having a live show with CityCast. So four of your co-hosts are all going to do an episode on Thursday night.
Thursday night,
we'll have
just to prepare.
A little bit. Yeah.
I went on CityCast and they asked, they did my favorite thing ever, which is when people take my tweets and read them back and make me answer for them. Like, I can't wait. Like, I have a dream of being in front of a Senate confirmation committee, and they're like, Mr. Hunt, you wrote that women with nose rings are not attractive. And that's what Bree got into.
Oh.
She like read it back. She's like, do you really think that girls with nose rings? I'm like, yes. They have beautiful faces. It gets messed up with the nose rings. And she thought that was hilarious. We had a good debate over it. So, by the way, all week long, lots of progressive co-hosts. And people are like, why are you doing that? Why? This is conservative talk radio. Because this is the nature of the Jeff and Bill Show. It is a debate show. It is a right, left, center debate show. And you are invited to be a part of the conversation. And it's like no other show in Colorado. So, and we make it fun and interesting because some of those public broadcast shows can get a little boring if they're right-left debate shows. Let's go to the phone lines. Frank Evergreen. Good morning, Frank. You're on with Jeff and Deep.
Hey, good morning. Great show. Real quick, Deep, I'm curious. I fear that you're wanting to make America like the nation that your ancestors came from, where 90% of the people still live in cardboard boxes and have never experienced indoor plumbing. And the other thing is that I'm curious what you think about the labor that India sends to us, basically indentured servants who have reduced my wages and or outright taken my jobs. And in the case of the Sikh truckers, we had a Sikh trucker kill 3 or 4 Americans in Florida a few weeks ago, where they break the law continuously. They load up 5 or 6 truckers into a rig, and then they run 24 hours a day, which is against the law, and they're not held to account for it. Do you really want to make America like India?
There's this interesting question when folks are I see this a lot on X. For example, a lot of people are like, India is such a backwards place, or South Asia is such a backwards place. And then Indian Americans here have the highest median income, right? They have the lowest rates of divorce, right? Their kids actually make up more valedictorians and salutatorians than any other minority group, right? So somehow Americans are like, Frank, it sounds like you're in this boat where Indian Americans are somehow so vastly superior that in America they hold the top echelon, even way above white Americans. But at the same time, the country that we came from was hellhole, right? So it's like, how do you hold these two concepts in your head? Or we could talk about the material exploitation that happened to.
My ancestors came from Ireland.
Well, yeah, we could talk about the material.
And they didn't want to make America like Ireland because Ireland was a hellhole at the time.
So, Ireland is a good example. So, like, the Irish and Indians actually have a very similar history here, and they actually have a very close friendship, whether it's the Indian Americans and Irish Americans.
Well, I have many friends who are Indian as well.
Exploitation of the British Empire, right? It's like before India was colonized.
Why can't you just answer the question? Are you okay with Sikhs having 5 truckers in a rig, breaking the law, and running a rig 24 hours a day, and killing people on the roads, and likewise in my industry, are you okay with Indians sending indentured servants here to take my jobs and reduce my wages when you just said your number one issue is how we're underpaid? Try to make some sense out of this for me.
Okay, so one thing he talked about was that there was I believe a Sikh American truck driver who made an illegal U-turn in Florida. Right. That led to
I don't know if he was Sikh.
I'm not sure who it was.
I know he was here illegally. I'm not sure what his religion has to do with it.
He was from a Sikh community in Southern California. He absolutely was Sikh.
But the key point being he's illegal here.
Yeah. American truck driving is a pretty dangerous job, right? And we talk about like the way that we ran transportation.
So are you okay with it or not?
Hold on, Frank. Let him finish. Go ahead. Deep.
I would believe that we need better working conditions for all folks across the way, right? What you see often with truck drivers or when it comes to Amazon delivery drivers, UPS drivers, those folks is oftentimes these companies are running such aggressive quotas, such aggressive things that truck drivers from all various industries feel like they need to meet these metrics. In order to do that, they cut corners, right? And the people you should be holding accountable for this is billionaires like Jeff Bezos, who are filling these trucks saying you have to make this drive from this city to this city in 10 hours or you're not going to get paid, right? While Jeff Bezos is buying his third yacht, second yacht.
That's absurd.
And so
you can't
the
blame
question
everything
is,
on the
do we want a more
billionaires.
regulated industry? Do we want more regulated, protected workforce? Yes, of course.
I'm in that boat. Enforcing the law.
I want the law to be enforced, right? And I don't want to make sure
that
at
the same time you're okay with feeding these indentured servants from India into our nation.
So you're saying indentured servants? I'm going to give you a little bit of grace here. I don't know why I'm going to give them the grace, but I'm going to give you a little bit of grace. Do you mean H-1B1 visa holders?
No, I mean illegals, H-1B as well, and then L-1Bs as well. And it's all under regulation, but the regulations were not being followed by any of the prior presidents to President Trump. And the Sikh driver who killed those people in Florida would not have been here had it been enforced. And the same thing in my case, where I'm in the tech business, where I have, over the last 30, 40 years, I have lost many jobs to Indian indentured servants who came here both legally and illegally. Now, I agree that the companies are not acting appropriately as well, but it's also a fact that we haven't been enforcing the laws and we haven't held people to account for it. So can't just say it's all Jeff Bezos.
All right, your response.
I will say, Frank, I do want to clap back a little bit, right? Is you are holding two simultaneous ideas, which I think is a frustration, and you see this oftentimes expressed. And maybe you said you just come from the tech industry and that, Indian Americans or folks that look like me have taken some jobs here. Is you're holding these two simultaneous beliefs where that I come from a backwards country where 90% of people live in a cardboard box. Meanwhile, these people are being so educated in a cardboard box that they can come here and take your job. Right,
you're the top 1%.
You're coming up with this interesting theory here, right? Where the CEOs of these massive companies, whether it's Google, right, or it's Microsoft, or these companies, these people are growing up without electricity, coming here and becoming CEOs of trillion-dollar companies.
There's an entire industry
right?
in
so
India.
What I'm saying is there is this interesting mindset that you're holding, as at the same time, my people are so vastly superior that they're coming here and taking your jobs.
But
and at the same time, our country is so backwards because of that. So I want to say you should grapple with that, your own internal contradictions there, where it's coming from. Coming back to the American policy point, is I truly believe that responsibility should be paid when someone's life is lost, when someone's life is put in jeopardy, when corners are cut. We talked about this amusement park case, right? For this amusement park case, sure, those individual workers should have been like, hey, why am I ignoring this alarm system? Right? Like, why am I not paying attention to this alarm system? And your boss is like, oh, it's okay, just keep going. At the end of the day, the buck has to be paid by somebody. And it should be paid by the owners and the corporations that are pushing these corners to be cut.
As the individual, right?
As well as the individual. And this individual is going to be held accountable, right? No question asked, this individual is going to be held accountable. But how do we stop these corners from being cut in the future? Is that we tackle through regulations and through worker protections these corporations who are cutting corners. Jeff Bezos gets to buy a second yacht while his truck drivers have to work overtime and jeopardize our lives.
You know, these platitudes are
Frank,
interesting.
we've got to go.
It doesn't answer the question.
Well, no, I think you did. Frank, I appreciate the call. We've got to run here to news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, 49 and partly cloudy, expecting a high of 74 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, Israel says they'll continue to pressure Hamas until all the bodies of dead Israeli hostages are returned. NBC's Matt Bradley on the 20 living hostages who were returned Monday as a part of the ceasefire deal.
The celebrations are carrying into a second day here just outside of Tel Aviv at one of Israel's main hospitals, Shiva Hospital. This is where we understand 9 hostages are now convalescing after having been released from Hamas imprisonment for the past 2 years.
Hamas only returned 4 of the 28 dead hostages, sparking anger among Israelis. The Israeli government's hostage coordinator insists the mission is not complete until all of the hostages are back. The Red Cross says returning all the bodies is a massive challenge, and it could take days or weeks to find remains in the rubble in Gaza. Last year on The View, Alyssa Farah said this.
My point when I say I'm not going to be apocalyptic, it's not changing a tune. It's not making every single thing a 5-alarm fire. Yeah. If he does good, if he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. She'll knock it right off my head. But like you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing. Well,
yeah, that's not going to happen. Don't expect that to happen. Early this morning on Air Force One, reporters asked about a Palestinian state. DJ T said that he wants to see a new Gaza.
I'm talking about something very much different. We're talking about rebuilding Gaza. I'm not talking about single state or double state or two state. We're talking about the rebuilding of Gaza.
And House Speaker Mike Johnson with a few words here and some news just a few minutes ago.
Announcement in the U.S. that was made in the Knesset yesterday. I'm proud to tell you that together with my friend Speaker Ohana of the Israeli Knesset, the equivalent of our Congress, we're going to embark upon a project together to rally speakers and presidents of parliaments around the world so that we will jointly nominate President Donald J. Trump for next year's Nobel Peace Prize. No one has ever deserved that prize more, and that is an objective fact. As Speaker Ohana said before the Knesset yesterday, quote, whoever saves one life, it is though he has saved an entire world.
And Speaker Johnson also working on this. The current government shutdown could end up being one of the longest in history. Senate lawmakers back at the Capitol now to take another shot at ending the Schumer shutdown, but don't hold your breath, of course. A candidate for mayor in Littleton is apologizing after being caught on video removing a political flyer from the door of a home. A surveillance camera spotted candidate Patrick Driscoll dropping off campaign material and then taking a flyer featuring several city council candidates. The flyer also included an endorsement for Mayor Kyle Schlachter, who's running for re-election. Driscoll acknowledged his action in a statement saying that the resulting controversy was distracting from the issues he wants to discuss. Big Tisha James, making her first public appearance Monday night since being indicted by the DOJ. Jennifer Bolsoni reports.
I know what it feels like to be attacked.
Letitia James taking the stage at a major Get Out the Vote rally in support of New York City Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani. She didn't directly mention the president or the indictment as she amped up the thousands of Mamdani supporters.
I will not give in. I will not give up.
Grand jury in Virginia indicting James on mortgage fraud charges after the U.S. attorney there presented evidence over a 2023 mortgage she took out to help her niece buy a home in the state. James won a multi-million-dollar civil fraud trial last year against the president. I'm Jennifer Bolsoni.
Oh, wow. For the love. All right. Hey, is Deep there, Jeff?
He is.
Oh, Deep is there.
Deep is here.
I have a question, Deep. Great show, by the way. Thanks for coming on.
We even got the Blake Olson question.
Hey, shout out for Fort Collins.
Yeah, I've got a question because you woke me up at like 6 o'clock in the morning with this one. Okay, so I mean, I could have been asleep. I'm not certain, but I think you said there were a lot of red districts that are more dangerous. I guess high crime than blue districts. Can you name a few? I'm just curious. I'm trying to figure this out.
When you look at the crime statistics per capita, so this is the thing you need to look at, right, is per capita. When you look at rural areas and you look at some suburban areas that typically vote more red, they are. And you look at more dangerous states in many ways, whether it's like Louisiana or Mississippi or Alabama. Florida has some pretty high crime rates, especially in many of their cities, right? So, yeah, I mean, crime is not unique to just blue cities and blue areas. I think what is unique is that blue cities could be addressing these problems in more serious ways, and they're not. So, but they are blue cities, and per capita, you're saying they vote for Republican mayors. True. South Florida, I think Miami, Aurora, not blue, and that's because. So you're saying that? Okay. So Aurora is an example. Okay. All right. So per capita, and I would say that blue cities, and if you're run by the blue, if we're going to go, and talk about blue, red and blue, but the left, if you run by cities that have city councils and police chiefs who are basically, and mayors on the left, it's going to be more dangerous. Correct or not? So you're in Fort Collins, right? No.
Sorry, I thought you were up near Fort Collins.
I'm east of Fort Collins.
East of Fort Collins, but up near that area.
I was going to say Fort Collins was just ranked, I think, the safest city in America. It was ranked the #1 city in America, right? Fort Collins, very blue. I agree. Just elected. They had two. Andy Basenecker used to be a member of DSA, and then Yara Zokai affiliated with DSA, right? And then the mayor is super blue, right? And then you have a liberal college town as well, right? So true. Where you see the most crime rates in America is where the highest rates of poverty is, right? So I was listing off cities, states like places like Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, right? High poverty rates, right? And, which lead to high crime rates, right? Lead to higher levels of exploitation. When you see cities with a very diverse workforce and a diverse income levels, you also see high crime rates. But when you go to really wealthy areas like Silicon Valley and Fremont, right? Super wealthy areas, super diverse areas, almost no crime. You look at places like Martha Vineyard, right? You can go to pockets of communities and pockets of really safe blue areas. At the end of the day, what we end up measuring when it comes to crime rate is poverty. And poverty has different solutions. Okay. I hear you. I think Boulder would be one of those also. Yeah, Boulder. Probably, I'm guessing, right? Okay.
They bust them out. That's the solution to that problem, right? Martha's Vineyard got dropped off. Some illegal immigrants. They had the last 5 minutes up there. They bust them the heck out of Martha's Vineyard.
You can have safe communities of all stripes and all colors and all religions and all of that, right? At the end of the day, what's hard to relieve is poverty, right? When poverty and exploitation come, people, there's this amazing quote: "Is under the majestic equality of the law, both rich and poor people can't sleep under bridges."
Wait, what?
Under the majestic equality of the law,
okay,
both rich and poor people can't sleep under bridges.
Because the law says they can't, or because the law? Yeah, right. I don't want rich or poor
rich people aren't sleeping under bridges, right? It's poor people are, and that's who you criminalize. And that's what starts this cycle.
What do you attribute poverty to? And is there any personal responsibility to that? So, Mike Kaufman, example, goes out and lives among the poor for 2 weeks, and he comes back. He says they're all drug addicted. So, in your mind, is there any form of personal responsibility that leads to poverty?
There's a lot of social science and statistics about what it takes to like get in a car accident or get into a plane accident, or have your personal life fall apart. And usually folks are looking for 7 things that have to go wrong in your life for it to go wrong. And you can take personal responsibility and say, hey, this thing went wrong, this thing went wrong, right? But when life is throwing you nothing but fastballs, nothing but trick plays, nothing but, the hardest things happening to you, you're much more likely to mess up. And the New York Times did a study, which I thought was really interesting, is that rich kids who do everything wrong, like if you're born in the top 20% and you get in trouble, you get a DUI, you're arrested in high school or college, you end up being more successful than the bottom 20% of kids who are valedictorians.
So I fundamentally disagree with that. Dude, I grew up in Cherry Hills. The rich kids that I grew up next to are in jail right now.
Look up the New York Times upshot. You will see that in America, if you are poor and you do everything right, you are less successful than if you're rich and do everything wrong.
I totally disagree with that.
I
totally disagree with that.
You want to live in a meritocracy? I agree.
Let's talk about my lived experience. Let's talk about my lived experience for a second.
I'm talking about stats.
The rich kids.
I'll pull up the stats as we hear this anecdote about Brittany from Doug
My lived experience is just an anecdote. Oh, my goodness.
Hey, let me ask you this, Deep. Do you agree with this, though? Okay? Because I do. And we hear this all the time. If you graduate from high school, if you don't drink and smoke, okay, let's just get that out of the way. And you graduate from high school and you get married before you have sex or a child, okay, and you get a job and then you get married, it doesn't matter who you are, how you came up as far as financially, or if you came from a poor family or a middle-class family, you will be in the middle class, or at least you used to be, or above middle class. Yeah. If you do those things, those personal steps. However, it's more difficult. I would say it's more difficult to achieve those when you don't have a father in the home, for example. Do you agree with that?
We need to be asking, what are the systematic factors that led to fathers not being in the home, right? I've talked about this, again, is communities had robust family groups, right? They had robust fathers were in the family. People had a village. People could rely on things, right? Let's talk about Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. All right, Black Wall Street in Oklahoma was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the home of the richest black community in America, right? This was a community where African Americans were thriving. They were living long lives, all this kind of stuff. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, after an incident happened, white supremacists came in and burned it all down. Right, they burned down Black Wall Street, and from there you have a history of
like the 1800s.
That's the 1800s. That was
today.
That was early, this century.
Okay, well, last century. It didn't happen this century.
Well, it happened less than 100 years ago. Less than 100 years ago.
But what is the systemic effort to keep black men from marrying the women they're having sex with right now?
There was a war on families and a war on crime that happened in America that disproportionately locked up people of color. And then you had things like the school-to-prison pipeline that disproportionately affected black boys. And then there's 2 books actually I would recommend. If you are interested in like learning a little bit more about this, seeing the world through my lens and the data and the things I read, right? I read right-wing books all the time too. But if you want to dip into it, Matthew Desmond has 2 books. One is Evicted, and the other one's Poverty by America. Both by Matthew Desmond, and he kind of gives first-person accounts, layered with statistics about what's happening in America.
Why today is he not staying married to them?
So
I'll tell you why.
It's like compounded interest, right? Wealth inequality and income inequality compound. And in America, this no longer just happens to black Americans and brown Americans and immigrants. It's starting to happen to more white Americans and rural Americans. When we talk about how Democrats lost rural America, when we talk about how Donald Trump is trying to fight for the working class, they're seeing similar patterns that are happening. It's not just in minority communities anymore, right? Minority communities, again, so they're canaries in the coal mine, right? It would happen to them first, but now this late-stage capitalist monster is kind of coming for all communities, right? You can go to West Virginia. If you want to talk about broken families, exploited families, go to West Virginia. Go to Michigan.
There's broken marriages there.
Go to
what's
Michigan.
the system
go to
there?
Wisconsin,
That's right.
Go
What's
to
the system?
Pennsylvania.
Why isn't Jamal marrying his wife in Detroit, and why isn't Freddie marrying his wife in West Virginia? What is this system that is allowing the dude to sleep around with lots of different women, have lots of different kids, because abortion will cover some of them and the welfare system will cover the others? There's no system that's stopping the guy from being a responsible husband and father regardless. And I agree with you. It's not just inner city. It's happening in rural America as well. There's no systemic effort to stop them. It's just a lack of personal responsibility.
When people are exploited, when people have high levels of exploitation and they have a lack of resources,
who's exploiting them? Who's exploiting them?
Oligarchs and corporations. Like a broken record here.
All right, I'm going to let you keep on going.
In West Virginia, the coal miner owners, folks like even like Joe Manchin, oil barons, coal barons, they came in, they exploited, and they gutted working class jobs and union jobs. And when you saw those jobs dissipate, you saw people get sick, you saw people without health care, you saw people with lower wages. Those communities started to fray at the edges. You think about this, like wealthier, more resource families are easier to stay together, that have less tension in their families, right?
Do you know why they have resources? Because they stayed together.
I think it's more...
Yeah. That's why they have the money to begin with.
Someone just, what was that?
Are they yelling that we need to get to a break?
Yeah, I'll get out of here and you guys can take it back. Deep, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the baby, and thanks for coming in. 46 in Superior, 47 in Centennial, 49 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue with Deep in Bill's chair. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Temperatures will be a little bit more mild over the next couple of days. The southwest flow will push temperatures here in Denver into the 70s today and 70s tomorrow, with lows tonight 40s to near 50 degrees. Same for Wednesday night. Breezy, sometimes gusty south winds. We're going to be cooler Thursday and Friday. And Thursday will bring a chance of showers, maybe a couple of thunderstorms with highs 50s and lows 60s. Down to the upper 30s, a few showers Thursday night. Breezy, partly cloudy Friday with high 60s. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
It's been a wild morning on the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out this week, so sitting in with me is Deep Singh Badhesha. He's a political activist, lobbyist, card-carrying member of the Democrats, Socialists of America. I'm a MAGA, loving, Trump, Rick Santorum, working social conservative, so it's been debates all day. We have found some areas that we agree on, which is fun. Which I appreciate. And this is the debates that we love to have on this show. It's not a echo chamber. And we invite you to be a part of the conversation. Speaking of that, let's go to Chris in Lakewood. Good morning, Chris. You're on with Jeff and Deep.
Morning, Jeff. I just wanted to comment on the whole data about, if a poor person gets a DUI and a rich person, that whole thing. Well, I think that's categorically false because I know plenty of Mexicans who break the law by entering this country illegally and then buy construction equipment with, money from who knows where. And these pieces of equipment are $500,000, $600,000. So I think we need to remember that just because we think it's empirical, or and we read it in a book, I say this at the risk of sounding ignorant. It's not necessarily true. Not to get too long-winded, but I've been in some trouble in my day, and you're right. Personal responsibility is everything. And I just think that certain types are trying to escape that responsibility with, passing certain laws and things of that nature. But let's remember, the government's not your daddy, and they're not going to save you. I mean, the benefits that we have just simply don't exist in Mexico. And other countries similar. I mean, I'm not trying to oversimplify here, but let's just see things for what they are. If you have multiple children outside of wedlock, life is going to be hard for you. And sometimes people make honest mistakes, and they think, whatever about the person that they're with, and they end up finding out the hard way. I'm one of 3 children with 3 different dads, and had no parental guidance, but
Donald Trump, the president?
It's a miracle I made it this far, but I'll tell you what. I hung out with great people. I grew up in Southwest Kansas, born in Texas, and the people that I surrounded myself with, and small farming community, that's where I picked up what I picked up.
Yeah, the culture
yes,
really
sir,
matters.
Yes, ma'am, all that.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, I agree with you on that. Deep, do you want to respond to anything he said?
Yeah, I'm not trying to compare the United States of America to Mexico. I'm trying to compare the United States of America to more peer countries, whether it's countries in the European Union, Asian democracies, whether we're looking at Japan or Singapore, or we're looking at Canada, right? I mean, I think universal health care, spending less money on foreign wars and investing in the American working class, I think that's something that we can focus on.
Canada's a disaster right now.
When it
right? It's like unemployment rate, its ability to get a house, how long it takes to get medical care.
I would agree that our discretionary budget is out of control. I mean, it's
we can probably agree on the budget, actually.
Yeah.
What happened to fiscal conservatives? I am actually really worried.
Thomas Massey.
The amount of Thomas Massey's. I worry about Thomas Massey's safety. Honestly, like Thomas Massey has been such a sane voice in the Republican Party. He's saying, like, why are we spending these billions of dollars overseas? What are we doing with this debt payment, right? We're never going to get out of this. And if the American budget was being used to build trains and investment and better roads and infrastructure to do that,
right.
But instead what we're doing is we are getting the U.S. into a whole load of debt, right? And that debt is then going to corporations that then buy back their stocks, make people rich, or we're giving $20 billion to Argentina, right? Trump just signed off giving $20 billion to Argentina, while soybean farmers in Nebraska and Iowa go bankrupt. Make that make sense to me. Sorry, this is not, Chris, you had other points. We just went on a tangent there, but I wanted to address, just to clarify the point that I had made, is that the New York Times upshot and economists and researchers like Raj Chetty, they did research on this, that if you were to break up America into essentially 1/5 groups, right? So the top 20%, the next 20%, the middle 20%, the next 20%, and the bottom 20%. They found that kids who were born in the bottom 20% who do everything right, which is graduate high school, were valedictorians, went to college, they end up in lower incomes in worse life situations than rich kids kids born in the top 20%, who have been arrested, who often don't go to college, and have a criminal record. So we are living in a place where we aren't a meritocracy, and we can come up with one-off solutions and one-off anecdotes. We're like, oh, well, I know Brittany from Douglas County or Steve from Sheraton, and they didn't successful.
But that's because the families can kind of care and overcome some of those problems by covering up the wealth. And I recognize they're covering it up. But what's your solution? Is your solution that that wealthy families can't keep their wealth or something like that? Like if a family goes, we have a son that's got a DUI and he's got problems, therefore we're going to put him into recovery, we're going to pay for it, we're going to cover that. Oh, he lives an okay life. What's wrong with that?
I want every poor kid in America to have all the same opportunities that a rich kid does. Right? At the end of the day, you're a Christian.
Hold on here. I understand what you're saying, but let's face the music here. I would never get into Harvard. I'd never get into any of the Ivy League schools. I grew up on the farm, all right? My set of knowledge is entirely different than somebody from a major city. That's not to say I'm stupid or unintelligent. I just never had that desire. So you are asking for opportunities for a certain demographic who might not even want that sort of life anyways. And
I don't rate success as Harvard or Yale or Stanford or any of this.
Yeah, so what do you rate it as?
I want it to be. I don't even think you need to go to college, right? I want it if you do everything right. And this is what my generation, and Chris, it sounds like we might be part of the same generation, but like the millennials are facing this moment that's become really frustrating. Is you have people who are in similar shoes to me, that they did everything right. The American story was, hey, you put your head down, you stay out of trouble, you graduate college, try not to get into debt, get married, and try to buy a house. People who are doing all those things right cannot afford a house. Their jobs are stagnating, and they see the rich getting richer. And that's why you saw that Zohran Mamdani in New York City, he was winning the investment bankers. He was winning the doctors and the engineers in the rich areas of New York City because those people are like, I did everything right. Like you, baby boomers, you told me to stay out of trouble, to become a computer scientist, to do these things, and it's not working out. My question is, what happened to the growth in America? Is the top 1% and the oligarchs took it?
But Deep, I don't think people. Hold on, real quick, Chris. Hold on.
Chris, I want people to become successful, whether they're a waitress or a truck driver or a nurse.
You can.
But Deep, this is classic socialist promising. This has happened. Hold on, Chris, real quick. I'll give you a second here. This is what's always promised with socialism, all the time. It recognizes a legitimate problem that I don't think is wrong, but the answer is always not equal success. What has happened over and over again throughout history is equal suffering is what happens.
I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg had this amazing quote, right, where it's like, we're not asking for equality, we're asking for you to take the boots off our necks.
And it's not happening. All right, Chris, final word, please. Go ahead.
So for example, I'm not sure what, I'm a millennial, born in 92. I'm not sure what metric millennials are saying, I just wish I could like reap the fruits of my labor as if they're, I understand. Like, everybody wants to make more money, but my supervisor said something the other day that rung true. It's not that everybody would want to raise. $1 ain't you know what. $2 ain't you know what. But you know what? If you do work hard and you save your money and don't live outside your means, being fiscally conservative, thank you, you can afford that $5,000 closing cost to buy a house. Now, should you buy a $500,000 overpriced house in Denver or where I live, Lakewood? I don't know. I can afford it. Don't want to.
Chris, appreciate
That's not a metric of success.
Great call.
You,
that's Chris from Lakewood. His line will be open. Guys, let's talk advanced hair restoration. If you're losing your hair and desire to have it back, then Advanced Hair Restoration has the easiest guaranteed solution. Deep does not have this problem. Great head of hair, by the way. This is Indian James?
Actually, fun fact, I had a hair transplant.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was not from restored hair, though.
It looks great, though. So, see, you can look as good as Deep Advanced Hair Restoration, their simple one-day treatment offers... There's good. It's legit. Simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results. I've seen it with my own eyes. Guys, it's not magic, but close to it. They put hair where you need it the most, and bam, it grows. It's actually science. Advanced Hair has it all. Top-rated Dr. Tanya Paul's modern technology. And best of all, you get your own natural hair that begins regrowing the very next day. Advanced Hair even guarantees it will grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now, 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver. It's changed the lives of tens of thousands of people. So don't wait. Check out the before and afters online for yourself. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com, 720-459-HAIR, advancedhair.com, advancedhair.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Text message hot Love having Deep here. Appreciate the conversation. People saying make sure you give Patty a hard time tomorrow too. Patty Calhoun. She's from Westward. She'll be joining us. Too. Yeah. I'm having a lot of fun. I enjoy these conversations, the direct debates. Let's take one more phone call. Jay, Castle Rock. Good morning, Jay. You're on with Jeff and Deep.
Great show, gentlemen. Thanks for Jeff for opening up the door to the other side of the other point of view. I have a question for your guest. Has your guest ever employed anyone or created income that pays taxes, and his employees would therefore allow the gratuitous things that he's received, his education, Pell Grants, and all of those things? Has he run a business?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small mom and pop liquor store. So, since I was a kid, I grew up there and did that. When you get older in a small mom and pop liquor store, you also start running things because my parents were very old fashioned, right? My dad used to use like the really old manual cash register. So whether it was high school or college or law school, or even when I was working as a teacher, I would go back to the liquor store and do shifts, right? When COVID happened, my parents actually got stuck in India for 6 months. So I went to the liquor store and ran it for 6 months. So I mean, I have experience from that side always.
I think what's intriguing,
and I will say there's a lot of red tape and regulation and BS stuff that happens at the lower level, right? That needs to be addressed.
And I think that's what's intriguing to folks like me, and maybe Jay, you can agree with that, is like you come from a family that worked really hard to get what they want, and the only way to fund people like yourself going to school is to take the money that comes from people that work really hard. And wouldn't it be better to make sure that they can have more freedom to invest that money back into their business, provide more jobs, than necessarily handing it to the government?
I think we see the role of government differently, and this is something I want to address with, of course, Jay and you and the rest of the listeners here. Is I don't believe in a system that I don't think we're going to have a just society in a society that's lifting all boats by just being like, hey, we're going to tax everybody up the wazoo, then we're going to redistribute it to everybody else through a large, big government, and Big Brother's going to save us all, right? I want a government that is a collection of people and their wills to be able to have more say of their labor and less exploitation from large companies and corporations. And let me tell you a story about my father. My father was, ditch layer and an irrigation ditch layer and a fruit picker in California, then a taxi driver in New York City, and he came to Colorado to find opportunity. But working a minimum wage job, he was able to buy a house and a store in Colorado Springs. That is not something you can do anymore. You cannot work at a gas station, save up enough money working he worked like 3 or 4 years and did that, right? That is not something you can do in Colorado Springs anymore. And the reason that's happening is because we have allowed market concentrations of large monopolies to come in and buy up the housing market. We have had huge companies come in and take over certain parts of the government that make it more beneficial for them to make a profit than the small folks. And we've had folks come in where they concentrate more and more power, and it affects consumers. And so I want a government that protects the little guy, a government that protects American workers.
They're taxing the little guy at a higher rate than ever before. Your fees are up 3,400%. What Amazon does versus what the state does with my money is totally different. Jay, I'll give you the final word because we got to jump here in 20 seconds. Go ahead.
Oh, great point of view. I'm the recipient of great immigrants from Europe and did the same thing. And, our group, being an employer for 40-some years, just having employees, the greatest day of your life is they come in and say, we're going to have a baby, we're going to buy a house, we're going to buy a car, I'm getting married. And it's a team. It's like a great football team. Ours was a big one. We had a lot of employees. But then every Saturday night, you're sweating it out to make sure you have enough money in the bank to make payroll. So I appreciate your objectiveness and also the fact that you were brought up in a value-based family, and you're the benefactor for it. I disagree with a lot of what you say, but I'll go to war to fight to keep you as a free citizen, and we have.
Jay, appreciate the call. Great job, Jay from Castle Rock. Deep, we're at the end of the show. He's got a young daughter. He's 3 weeks old, brand new father. He's going to go home and take a nap with his daughter. But, hey, great job. Appreciate you coming by. That's Deep Singh Badhesha. Follow him on X at Deep Not Shallow. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS.